Hello, I'm back. So that's another problem with Kenya. Kenya power. Anyway, I won't talk about that. So anyway, I was talking about the Matatu menace in Kenya. 3,000 people die annually because of road accidents. That's a very, very, very high number. It's relatively the same figure of the number of people who died at the World Trade Center. And look what Americans did after that. We need to do something about our road accidents here in Kenya. Another peculiar thing to take note of is that the World Health Organization says that around 13,000 people die every year. So there's a discrepancy between what the World Health Organization is reporting and what the Kenyan government is reporting. And people attribute that to underreported cases of underreported accidents. So personally, I feel that they're underreported because I know of cases where people had accidents, some people died, and they didn't report it. Yeah, so that's I understand where that comes from. Now we need to do something about that because people dying is not nice. And again, you look to the great leaders. What did they say when change needs to occur? One of them, Martin Luther, said that I think it was Martin Luther. He said that change starts with you. You are the person who is to bring forth this change. And I wanted, because I'm going to preach, right? I wanted to add something that Gandhi said. Gandhi said that an ounce of practice is worth more than a ton of preaching. So he's comparing ounces and tons. An ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. So using those examples, this is what people usually argue, that passengers need to do something about that. Even the president said that Kenyans need to handle corruption on their own. Mimi nitafanyaje? I think it was an infamous quote. So here are the suggestions that people usually say. Hello, Makori. You should refuse to sit in a mat that's full. Yeah, that's understandable. Why? Because they usually assume that, it will have a ripple effect. Many people will start refusing, and then eventually people will just refuse to sit in full mat. So a rolling stone gathers moss. That's the idea behind that. Now, another idea is that you tell the driver to go slow. Just tell him to go slow. And the idea behind that is what somebody else said. I think it was Edmund Burke. He said that all it takes for evil to triumph is for a few good men to keep quiet. And that's true. If you speak up, something will happen. Not exactly what you want to happen, but something will happen. And so that's the idea behind telling people that, speak up when the driver is overspeeding. Remember, it's your life. So you need to speak up. Another thing is that when you approach like a bus terminal, the conductors usually come at you. They usually kuja huku because they want to bring you to, hello John, they want you to bring you to all sides, right? To their matatu. And here's the thing, you have a right to your own body, so you have that right to push them away, to tell them no. And these are all the theories based on that idea that change starts with you, and that an ounce of practice is worth more than a ton of preaching. And here's what I have to say about that. Simply put, that is utopian thinking. That is not possible. Why? Because we live in different dynamics. Like if somebody is going after a hustle, and the economy is bad, we know that people are suffering. Around 40% of the people live below poverty, or 35 to 40%. So these people are in search of something, and they need to get there as fast as possible before the other gets. So if a mat is going there at this time right now, then that business, it can't go away, because most of the people are in the informal sector. It's not like at the end of the day they'll call their boss and say, I missed the mat, we'll get tomorrow and the salary will come. If that thing goes, it goes. So they need, we live in a fast-paced environment, and we need to understand that will not always be possible. And here's the thing, if one person does not do it, it goes the reverse way. If one person does not do it today, out of circumstances that they cannot help, then another person will not do it tomorrow, and it will go that way. And then soon the conductors will be like, the other people do it, why don't you do it? You get? So it's kind of like utopian thinking to suggest that people won't get into maths that are full. We need to think realistically, not in terms of utopian thinking. Another thing I wanted to add was that you tell the driver not to speed, and that's a good thing, and you should always say that. But here's another thing, a philosophical way of thinking about it. If a tree, I think you've heard this before, if a tree makes sound, if a tree breaks a branch, makes a sound, right, when the branch is breaking, in a place where there is nobody can hear the sound, then is that breaking an actual sound? And here's the idea behind it. That's what I'm saying it. If you are in a mud and then you start speaking and then you're alone, then what happens? Then next time you speak, somebody speaks on your behalf, and then you're kind of like two. Another time you speak, and then people are kind of like, wait, what mean I need to get to work early. What happens is that it will never work in that way, because you'll have different dynamics at different times, and most of the time you'll feel discouraged because you don't want any kind of trouble before you get to work. You don't know what the other passengers are thinking, and you just end up, you'll not always speak up, because if you do speak up all the time, it will have a weight on you. It will. Now, you can shove conductors away, and that's a good thing, but here's the thing. There are ladies especially, there are people who cannot shove conductors away when there's a bit of a problem, right? They just can't do that, because some of us are not built to be aggressive. We're not built to be aggressive, so we can't do those things. And here's what Thucydides he wrote in what they call the Melian Dialogue, and it was the Athenians, the Melians, and the Spartans. And the the Athenians were coming to attack the Melians, and the Melians were kind of like, the Spartans will come to our aid, because the Spartans were their friends. And the Athenians told them they won't come. And the Melians said, you cannot attack us because it is not right to attack us. And the Athenians told them, the strong do what they can. And that's the thing. When somebody comes and tries to grab you, he already understands that he's strong, and he's in a different position than you are. And he has his friends, he has his buddies around. Some of us will be able to push them away, others will not be able to push them away. And there's a reason why I'm giving these two kind of scenarios. One is the utopian scenario where everybody's thinking the world is perfect. You start with one change, Rosa Parks and all that thing, and everything rolls from there. And then there's this other one, in the reality that we're living in this African reality. With Rosa Parks, the movement had already started. Martin Luther was already behind, and she was ready to push behind her. There was already a movement behind her. When it comes to Kenya, there's no movement against the matatu industry. There's no organized outfit that will come and back you up. And you know what happens is that we create the government for such things, for such purposes. That's why we create the government, such that we already know that we cannot deal with certain situations in a utopian kind of thinking, because utopia doesn't work. It doesn't exist. So we need a government to do what? We need a government to prevent what we call, Thomas Hobbes called, a war of all against all. And what is this war? This war is exactly what the matatu industry is. Everybody has his own kind of like matatu graffiti. Uniform you can wear, you cannot wear. You can stop where you want to stop. You can, charge passengers whatever you want to pay them, even though you have told them a specific price. So it's kind of like exactly what Thomas Hobbes described, a war of all against all. And that's why you need a government, right? Because there's that social contract theory that we talked about, that we always understood, that we pay taxes to the government and we give it loyalty in exchange for it to give us protection, for it to help us. Hello, Gilly. Because we can't push back the matatu industry always when conductors approach us. We can't always pick up when drivers speed, and we can't always refuse to sit in a matatu that's full. And that's why you need the government. We need that power, that force of the government behind us. And we have to understand what is wrong with this government. Why is it not working? because it's there for that specific purpose. And one of the reasons I thought that it's not working, it's because we have inconsequential rules. And you'll hear Trump and the Republicans talking about this all the time. We are a nation of laws. If we don't have laws, we don't have a nation, right? These laws have to be enforceable. You have to enforce them. If they don't exist, then we'll go to what Thomas Hobbes called a war of all against all, right? If we have uniforms, then those uniforms must be worn. If we have a specific number of seats, there must be a specific number of seats. If you can't move past this limit, then you can't move this past limit. It must be a law, and that law must be enforceable. Otherwise, within consequential rules, then everybody will just break them, and we'll have chaos like we're having right now. And that's the thing. I support this, whatever is happening right now, and I hope that it continues and that we have order at the end of it. I'll give some more insights as we go. Another problem with this thing is what let me use the Latin phrase, quis custodiet is ipsos custodes. I hope I said it right. It's a Latin phrase that says, who will guard the guards? Who will guard them, right? The police are part of they own these matatus. So if they violate these rules, then who is going to keep check over them? Is it the same police? When people keep check over themselves, they tend to abuse their power, because there's nobody holding them to account. If it's they themselves who hold themselves to account. And that is why Nero could order Christians he ordered Christians to be lit up, to be burnt, so that he could have light at night. Because he was the emperor and he was accountable to no one, right? And that's what the police are. They're accountable to no one. As long as they have matatus on the road, as long as there's nobody else other than them to check on them, then that's a problem. And I think the US have what? The internal affairs to check over the police, right? In Kenya we have another body, I think, is it Ipsos? Oh no, it's not Ipsos. Another body that doesn't work. Anyway, we need another body to check that thing outside the police, and that's where people came with the NTSA, but it had a problem. Again, another problem is bribery on our roads. With bribery, nothing can go far. You can break the rules as long as there's bribery on our roads, right? So that's as far as I wanted to say. That's the causes of the Matatu menace, and you need to bring a stop to that. We need to, if we understand the problem, then we can solve it. Because another philosopher said, the solution is always within the problem, not outside of it. So if we are able to analyze the problem correctly, accurately, then the solution is there. Okay, so how do you solve the issue? In my opinion, how do you solve the issue? We need to support sensible initiatives. Just support these sensible initiatives. Right now, there's a crackdown. Support it. Support it. We know that this crackdown, it's highly likely that it won't last. It's like the Michuki rules. It will take some time and then it will go away. But you still need to support them. And here's why. You need to support them because without ever having the Michuki rules, right now, we wouldn't have Michuki rules to be speaking of. We wouldn't have had that moment of order that we can fall back on and say, hey, we need that kind of Michuki rules. We need them back. Because for some time we had a bit of order. And then again, that chaos that brought about that order, we needed that experience so that we can say that we can be ready for the chaos that's coming. So that we can have some kind of memory of what might come, so that we can be able to endure. You get that shock of that first time enabled us to endure the shock of this second time, and the order of that last time helps us to see what we can gain from enduring this shock. So that's what I'm saying. And then we also need to prepare for pain, because yeah, it will be painful, right? The fares will double. I'm hearing it's 200 bob in some places, as in 200 bob to town, anyway. And then we also need to support some other things, like the removal of graffiti. We can't have graffiti on our matatus. We need order. There has to be order, right? And again, this is why kind of like I like Christianity, because they usually say God is a God of order. You can't have everybody everywhere with their own kind of graffiti, with their own kind of markings. And then with the graffiti comes other stuff. The lights that they put on the whatever, their speakers that they put on there. There's pressure on those guys to bring back that cash, because it didn't take, they didn't build that with bananas, like Kidero usually says. Yeah. So yeah, that graffiti is a problem, and we need to get out of that mind where, yeah, we love it, it's nice. The macro economy works in a different way. If people lose jobs in this area, they get jobs in another area, as long as you keep it within the economy, as long as you handle the macro economy. If they lose this job, they get this job, as long as you're able to protect your economy from outside forces. So they will get jobs, don't worry about that. Another thing is that political will is necessary, because as we're now seeing, especially I think there's a lot of influence from central Kenya, because I think most of the people in Nairobi who own these matatus are from central Kenya. So there's a bit of trying to push Jubilee through Uhuru and all that stuff, and then the votes to ensure that these rules don't succeed. We can't let that happen. But it may happen, because our leaders don't think, and they think about 2022 instead of thinking about what is good for the nation. And so what do I say? Political will is necessary, and I think at this point Matiangi has political will, so let him push, let us support him to push, so that after some time we can say, hey, we need the Matiangi rules, and who knows, after some time we might have the Esther Majali rules, and this might be the rules that will sustain us forever, or for a long time. So goodwill of the presidency is very, very, very important. Okay, another thing is continuous enforcement. We have to enforce these things continually, because again, if the rules become inconsequential, if the rules, if they don't matter at the end of the day or after some time, then we'll still return to the same old thing. And what happens after that? Then it becomes a culture. It becomes a culture such that people will, the rules come, they go, whatever. And that's the culture we have, because bribery is kind of like culture. They tell you that, madam, you'll stay there, but at the end of the day, you'll give us money because you still want this service. You get? And so that's what I wanted to give. Another example. There's this story in Encounters from Africa. It's called The Prisoner Who Wore Glasses. I think people my age, we can remember that, right? And it was about this warder who came, and he was very tough on the other guys, on this group of political prisoners. They were called Span 1. And so what happened was that Span 1 was able to outwit this warder, and to get him to, kind of like he used to steal fertilizer. So they I think they used that leverage against him, and then they usually used to say that he did this and he didn't do that. So Hanaji at a certain point, he asked this prisoner, what do you want? Because you guys are spoiling, you guys are making it tough for me to maintain and to work, and I have a family. And the Span 1 prisoners, they didn't want to be mistreated. So at the end of the day, we just look at the police. They have families, and they have come into this culture where bribery is okay, mistreating people is okay, and we are on the other side. We are on the Hanaji side, on the Brill side, because Brill was the other kind of the prisoner, and we are in a bad situation where we have police who don't care, we have a system that doesn't care. And at the end of the day, Hanaji, the warder, and Brill, the prisoner, found a way of working together under the system. We need to find a way with the police to work together to end this menace. And it does not necessarily mean, like in the case of Prisoner Who Wore Glasses, that the corruption continues. No. This time we can end it if we do it together, and that's my idea, and I believe that it's possible, and I believe that we will. So that's where I'll end this video. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow I'll see you. I'll try and announce whatever topic I'll be handling. Give me topics. Try and give me topics so that I can see. Give me suggestions. I really want to know if this connectivity is okay, so that I can know how I'll handle that. You guys take care. Sorry about the Matatu menace. Endure with perseverance. It builds character. Character builds hope, and hope never disappoints. That's a Bible verse. Anyway, take care and bye.